Alonso is losing the dressing room with talk of the sack already starting at Real Madrid. Liverpool are moving for a Bayern star and they'll get him for free. Foden and his future at Man City. And 4 top clubs are now in the hunt for Upamecano. We're covering all that and more in today's video. Guys, let's try and hit 350 thumbs up on this one. Your support helps us make even better content for you. Let's get right into the latest transfer gossip. Phil Foden is staying at Manchester City. Surprising news? Hardly. But important? Absolutely. Football Insider reports that the club is close to a new deal with its academy graduate, who this season has started to remind everyone why he was seen as the future face of Guardiola's project. And yes, Pep still believes in him. Not just out of politeness, but because Foden is finally getting back the form he lost for almost a year. To be fair, Phil's story is a classic roller coaster, just without the happy ending in the middle. There were moments when he looked like the best player on the team, and then a sharp drop. A dip in form so nasty that even City fans started to wonder if the lad had burned out too soon. Why did it happen? Officially, no reasons were given, but there were whispers of niggling injuries that were holding Foden back and stopping him from playing at his usual pace. And he started the new season in much the same way, flat, with his spark gone. But now, things are changing, and you can see it with your own eyes. Phil is moving freely again, taking charge of the game, actively looking to attack, and more importantly, he looks confident. This is exactly the version of Foden that Guardiola loves. Technically cool, smart, with a quality final ball. A mini revival that City are about to lock down legally with a new contract. Foden's current deal runs until 2027, so there's plenty of time left on the clock. But City are being proactive. The club doesn't want even a hint of uncertainty. If the deal is signed, Foden will become one of the team's highest paid players. A logical step. If you want someone to be the face of the project, you pay them like the face of the project. City know perfectly well that Foden is being watched, not just by European top clubs, who have long praised his technique and flexibility, but by Saudi Arabia too. They were already sniffing around him in the summer, gently winking at him with a fat contract. And if the negotiations suddenly stall, that story could easily resurface. But judging by the current momentum, it's unlikely to get to that point. City are absolutely right about one thing. Keeping Foden and Rodri has to be priority number 1. Both are the foundation of Guardiola's game. Both are system-defining. Rodri is the structure. Foden is the creativity. If they both sign new deals, the club will have locked down 2 key positions for years to come. Adam Wharton has appeared on the radar of clubs across Europe, but leading the race, surprisingly, is Chelsea. Fichajes reports that the Blues are currently the leading contenders for his signature. The club views the 21-year-old Crystal Palace defensive midfielder as a priority target for the coming years. Wharton's own development has been a perfect illustration of rapid growth. In the Blackburn Academy, he was one of the most consistent young players. But his real ascent began after his first team debut in 2022, a season and a half later, and he was at Palace not as a squad player or for rotation, but immediately as a key figure. At 21, he plays as if he has a decade of Premier League experience. Maturity, calmness, and ability to read the moment. He has all of these qualities. But Wharton's greatest asset is not his tackling, but his intelligence. He senses the tempo, controls the rhythm of the game, distributes the ball accurately, is not afraid of pressure, and never looks out of place against top clubs. Midfielders with these attributes are currently in very short supply. It is no surprise that Chelsea are so keen to sign him. The London club is anxious at the thought of another club moving first. The club has long adopted a strategy of recruiting promising young talent for the future, and Wharton fits this model perfectly. He is young, has huge potential, and more importantly, it is in his area of the pitch where Chelsea constantly seem to be lacking something, be it injuries, inconsistency, or a complete absence of vertical ball progression. A player like him in the squad is not just useful, he solves a whole host of problems. But Palace have no intention of letting him go easily. A contract until 2029 puts them in a very comfortable position. There is no pressure, no need to make a decision right now. The Eagles are fully aware that they possess a valuable asset. Therefore, the conversation is simple. If you want Wharton, you must pay, and pay generously. There will be no discounts for his age, English passport, potential, or the promising player package. He is already a first-team regular, and his price tag will be appropriate. Now, regarding Chelsea. They have the funds, that is not new. But the question is not if they will pay, but when and how. The London club needs to create space for the player without disrupting the atmosphere. Young players on high salaries can always be a delicate puzzle in the dressing room. Plus, there is competition, not only from other top English clubs, but clubs outside the Premier League are also monitoring Wharton closely. That is why Chelsea is acting cautiously. The planned scenario is one where a deal might be attempted in the summer. During that period, Palace are more open to negotiations. The window is longer, there are more opportunities to find a replacement, and there is less pressure on the club. And it is possible the Blues will indeed wait to avoid forcing negotiations in January. Currently, according to Fichajes, Chelsea are leading the race, but this lead is provisional. One mistake, one call from a rival, one "will call you back" from Palace, and everything could change. But if the deal is completed, Chelsea will acquire a midfielder who could become their foundation for the next 7 to 10 years. A mature, intelligent system player with enormous potential, and the club is well aware that to miss out on such a player would be a crime. A proper transfer circus is kicking off around Dayot Upamecano, and if you believe Ekrem Konur, it's not just one club in the queue for the French defender, but 4 European giants at once: PSG, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Barcelona. And the funny thing is, all 4 of them are desperate for a center back, each in their own way, each with their own crisis, and each sees Upamecano as the solution to at least half of their defensive problems. Let's start with PSG. They're first in line not just because of their interest, but also their resources. The French champions won the Champions League, rebooted their project, and now they want to strengthen their defense with a human tank. It's logical. Paris needs depth for 2 full squads. Upamecano is French, experienced, used to high demands and Bayern's standards. Players like that don't think twice about joining PSG. The project is ambitious, the wages are astronomical, and the conditions are perfect. And by the way, it's PSG who are putting the most pressure on Bayern right now because alongside Dayot is Moussa Sissoko, an agent who has long been close to the Parisians. Sissoko is a man who knows how to push for his terms. Does he get what he wants? Often, yes. Now his goal is to secure not just a new team for Upamecano, but a fat signing-on bonus too. And that's exactly the bonus Bayern don't want to pay. Paris, on the other hand, will happily pay it 3 times over. A bit further back is Chelsea. In defense, the Londoners sometimes seem to be relying on divine intervention. Injuries, mistakes, inconsistency, the full set. And when a club spends season after season signing promising youngsters, sooner or later the question arises: who is actually going to lock down the center of defense while the project matures? Upamecano is the ideal option. He's 26 at his peak, ready to play right now, and Chelsea are desperate for players of his profile. The Londoners have already looked at several defenders, but Dayot is a rare case where you can get a top player with Champions League experience without any transfer chaos, because his contract is basically running out. But in January, he's effectively available for a token fee. For Chelsea, it's a gift from the gods. Liverpool? The condition is simple. If Konate doesn't extend, he's leaving soon. Losing a defender like that for free would hurt. And then, the question is, who do you put next to Van Dijk 2.0? Dayot is the obvious candidate. Similar attributes, prime age, his style fits a high press and a high defensive line. And it's also important that Liverpool have a long history of liking French defenders. That combination of athleticism and technique really works for them. The only risk is the money. But if Konate really does leave as a free agent, the club will have to react quickly. And finally, Barcelona. The Catalans are looking at everything that moves, but as always, they have no money. However, Upamecano is a special case, a top defender, available in the winter. Barca need a player who can immediately raise their quality because Araujo hasn't been impressive this season. And Christensen and Koundé are a lottery. One day they're there, the next they're not. The only question is whether the Catalans can make an offer that even comes close to what their rivals can put on the table. And that's doubtful. Amidst all this, Bayern are getting nervous. The club knows that losing Dayot for free would be a blow, so they're offering a pay rise. 16 million euros gross a year already looks impressive. With that increase, he would become one of the highest paid players on the team. just below Kane and Musiala. But the signing on bonus is the sticking point. The Germans aren't willing to pay it. PSG are, tomorrow, if needed. Plus, Upamecano wants a release clause. Bayern don't like that either. The club hates being dependent on clauses. So we have a strange situation. Everyone wants Upamecano, but the deciding factors will be two simple points: the bonus and the clause. And this is where PSG have a massive advantage. Of course, Upamecano has his own interest too. He's 26, and right now, one thing is important to him: regular football and fighting for trophies. All four clubs can offer him both. The only question is, which project seems more stable and clear to him? And here, Paris has another advantage. Their project is already built. Barca is chaos. Chelsea is a permanent construction site. Liverpool is an unknown with Konaté's future up in the air. Upamecano is facing a choice of where to spend his best years. And if Bayern don't meet him halfway, Paris could close this deal faster than anyone. Because the one thing PSG isn't afraid of is big numbers next to the line signing on bonus. Liverpool had a pretty noisy summer, but 2026 could be even hotter. And one of the reasons for that could be Serge Gnabry. His contract at Bayern is running out, and the club wants to keep him, but they're not ready to pay the same old money. It's a classic story. And in this classic, the Merseysiders aren't just watching from the sidelines, they're ready to get in the game. The situation is simple. Gnabry is one of Bayern's highest paid players. His salary is around 19 million euros a year, numbers on Kane's level. And this is where the conflict of interest begins. The Munich club sees that the player has become important again in the first half of the season, especially when Musiala was out. But the idea of keeping a 30-year-old on a top star's salary doesn't seem reasonable to them. So either Serge agrees to reduce terms, or he becomes a free agent in the summer. And that's where Liverpool come in. The Merseysiders have been looking for a winger for a very long time. They sold Luis Diaz, and Chiesa never became a player that Arne Slot trusts to start games. Gnabry is a perfect fit stylistically. Fast, sharp, powerful, and still productive, but there's always one but. For Liverpool, salaries like that are a blow to their structure. The club has a simple principle. They don't like paying big money to players over 30. And now the question is, are Liverpool ready to break their traditional balance for a two-season boost? The paradox of the situation is that Gnabry is ideal not as a superstar starter, but as a rotation player. He rarely plays a full season. 26 league starts is his career maximum. Last year, just 13 starts. But his stats are brilliant. Almost 0.85 goals plus assists per 90 minutes. The question is different. Are clubs ready to pay a guy who spends 1,200 to 1,500 minutes on the pitch a season, almost 20 million euros a year? 7 goals, 5 assists, great impact, fantastic efficiency, but too little game time for that salary to be objectively justified. But you have to consider an important detail. There will be no transfer fee, and this is where Liverpool find a loophole. The absence of a payment to Bayern allows them to be a bit more flexible with their wage budget. It's not about overpaying, but even 15 million euros a year becomes a reality. Yes, it's a lot. Yes, it's above the club's standards, but it's still cheaper than paying 60 million euros for a winger of Gnabry's level on the transfer market. Besides, Arne Slot needs a player who can provide experience and stability when the young guns are struggling. Gnabry is a product of the English system. He's played in the Premier League, he knows the rhythm, he knows the physicality of the league. You can sign him for 2 years, plug the gap left by Diaz, and buy time while the club looks for a more long-term solution. But let's look at the bigger picture. It won't just be Liverpool who are active in the market. Juventus are also watching the situation closely. Free agents of this caliber are their speciality. But the main thing is Bayern seem ready to accept the idea of the player leaving for free. They won't force the issue. They won't keep him at any cost. Their position is simple: either reduce terms or a quiet exit. So are Liverpool ready to go against their own system? Are they ready to risk their wage balance for a tactical necessity? Are they ready to sign a 30-year-old who won't play every week but can deliver results when he does? The answer will become clear closer to the summer. Something much more serious than just a bit of discontent is brewing at Real Madrid. According to Fabrizio Romano, something unpleasant is developing in the team, not a full-blown rebellion, but not your usual workplace friction either. It's somewhere between fatigue from the demands and a lack of understanding of where the team is even heading under Xabi Alonso. And yes, Romano himself has already said he can't guarantee the full trust of the board and players in the manager. That sounds diplomatic, but on a Madrid scale, it's a serious alarm bell. And that's the key point: a lack of understanding. The players are losing focus, as if they've gone through a tough phase last season, exhaled, and now just can't find their rhythm. The team's performances aren't a disaster, and the results aren't a failure, but in the Madrid dressing room, something else is more important: the connection between the coach and the player, and right now, it seems to be wearing thin. The reasons? On the surface, it's Alonso's reforms. From day one, Xabi has aimed for total control. He's trying to influence literally everything: tactics, discipline, even the small details outside the training ground. Strictness as a tool is fine, but there's a line where strictness turns into pressure, and it seems the players are starting to feel that line. The situation with Vinicius is a case in point. At first glance, nothing critical. But if you look deeper, for some time now, you can see hints of a chill between the coach and the player. Constant rotations, strange decisions about his minutes, small signals of distrust. No, Vinny isn't a saint. He has a difficult character. We know that. Next, Valverde. A guy who can cover half the team with his energy alone. But even he doesn't understand why Alonso is moving him to a position where Fede loses most of his best qualities. This kind of switch looks like a coach's experiment for the sake of an experiment, and the player feels it. Rodrigo is a separate issue. He's on the bench more than he plays, and it no longer looks like rotation. It looks like a loss of trust. And the worst part is, no one can explain exactly why. You get the feeling that Xabi himself hasn't quite decided on his role. And while he's thinking, Rodrigo is turning from a key player into a bench warmer. Friends, don't leave this video without giving your reaction. It really helps the channel. Hit the thumbs up or down, preferably right now, and drop a comment. We'd be grateful. All of these are small things on their own, but together they form a lump in the throat, and that lump is starting to make it hard for the team to breathe. A broken atmosphere is the quietest but most dangerous enemy at a big club. You can escape a press, you can get through a dip in form, you can fix a crisis with a result. But if the players don't trust the coach, nothing can save you. And here's the main fear being whispered around Madrid. What happens if Vinicius decides he's had enough? What if he flat out refuses to extend his contract and leaves as a free agent? Losing a player like that is a catastrophe, even for Real Madrid. And in a conflict of that scale, there are no winners. The strangest thing about this story is that it's not clear what the trigger was. Where exactly did Xabi cross the line? Where was the moment that a working process turned into tension? The Real Madrid dressing room isn't a team where you can just apply more pressure. It's full of players with status, experience, and their own worldview. And if a coach doesn't find a common language with them, he's in a dangerous zone. Yes, authority is important, but authority can't just be appointed, it has to be earned. Real is a club that has weathered bigger storms. But right now, it feels like the problem isn't with one player or emotional outbursts, but with the management style itself. If Xabi keeps piling on the pressure, if he doesn't find a way to win back their trust, he risks losing control completely. And here we get to the heart of it. A situation is brewing in Madrid where the club might have to choose. Stick with the hardline coach, or restore harmony in the dressing room at any cost. If things don't change, the first casualty might not be a player. For now, these are just cracks. But if they're not fixed, they'll turn into a fracture, and then Xabi Alonso's job will be under real threat.